Dr. Nichols is in a little different practice. She and Dr. Bowl practiced together, and Dr. Bowl had a large middle class practice, and we've introduced the county patients, some of whom may have.
I feel like I have a very different clinic population than the folks that are up here. My office is really just 3 pediatricians, myself, Dr. Bowl, and Dr. Levin, and they're both part-time, but they both were also very motivated to making some strides towards some developmental screening that was better than what we were doing. And we previously were really just looking at CHDP, the little CHDP checklist, and talking about things that we knew at each stage, which we know doesn't work nearly as well. So when we decided to go ahead and start screening, we tested both the ASQ and the PEDS, and in general felt that the PEDS was a much more brief and useful way to go. We ended up testing it at the 9 months, 18 months, and 24-month well-child checks, and realized that we were missing a lot of the PEDS forms in the charts because the MAs were thinking about all the other things they need to think about at a CHDP physical, and they wouldn't remember to always put the PEDS form in there. And so we ended up just saying, okay, we're going to do this from 6 months to 6 years. And so we actually use PEDS at every single well-child check between 6 months and 6 years. And I've never walked in on a patient, a mother, when they were still filling it out. I mean, it's very brief. It takes very little time for the family. But we do use the ASQ still for anybody who we then have concerns about. But I'd say the biggest change for us in the last year of using this has been that our patients really are much more ready for the discussion of development and the questions that follow, rather than, before just thinking that their well-child check was a physical and shots. They now know that we're going to talk about development, and we want you to come prepared, and they really think, I think, a lot more about those issues before I walk in the room.
I'd like to thank the panel at this point, so we can we'll keep in motion. They are all available to you, and if you want, through our first 5 funding, we can have them come to your clinic and give a little talk. You could go and visit with them. Certainly, your staff can talk with them. The PEDS, at the end of Wicked, there's a song between the good witch and the bad witch is at their end of life, and they're finally talking to each other. And sometimes we end up just talking to our parents. And I had one parent when I did more general practice who said, would you just stop lecturing me and talk to me? And I think that's what the PEDS does, is it really gives you an opportunity for a dialogue. It's respectful to the parent. The other thing, when we had a first 5 funded project where the public health nurses were doing the Denver developmental screening test, all the mothers in Simi Valley knew that their children could get extra access to services in schools if only they were delayed. And all those parents, of course, had non-delayed children. So we really want to do this appropriately, but we know by educating the parents so that they're looking around when they're at the Pacific View Mall, that they're comparing their child to other children, that they're going to come to our visits much more educated and ready for a dialogue rather than the monologue that can be too much of a very hurried well-child practice to try and complete all of this. Park.
A quick question, where are you putting your developmental paperwork in the chart? Do you have a separate section for that?
We put ours under, we have and you have the same, kind of chart makeup. We put ours under the flow sheet section. So it makes it easier. What I developed and I can pass around were tools, because our staff really want specific guidelines in terms of when do they put the form in the chart and not in the chart, and where do they go. And so what I did was I created just a very quick half-sheet thing that was passed out, discussed at a staff meeting, and then passed out to the back office and the front office, as well as the providers, so that when we do launch, the point of putting the actual form into the chart at the point of the team huddle, if the back office staff forgets, then the front office person who's discussing the charts with them will remember. So it's kind of a way of double checking and cross checking, but under the flow chart section. You guys do it differently?
I put ours under the clinic notes. I think it's part of the clinic visit, and it often gets forwarded to other providers when I have concerns, and so I like it there.
but.
What we've been doing is the PED screen, as you can see when you pick the stuff in the front, is that there's the questions for each visit, and then there's also like a tracking, central kind of tracking, where at each month you're checking off checkboxes. So what we have been theoretically doing is putting that flow sheet where your normal pediatric flow sheet would